How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the landscape here at Strawbery Banke Museum. I'm in our Victorian Goodwin Garden, absolutely surrounded by beauty this time of year. Now, how does the horticulture program here at Strawbery Banke sustain all this biodiversity? From the medicinal crops to the ornamental flowers to the fruit crops, there are different methods that we use every year to sustain so much biodiversity. We interpret over 4+ centuries of unique heirlooms throughout the colonial period, early America, and certainly our postmodern era. Seed collection is a huge method that we use this time of year, collecting seed as it comes out. That allows us to sustain our landscapes here with garden design and interpretation, but allowing us to also rejuvenate our seed library, our seed program, allowing us to reproduce surpluses for the community to grow these unique heirlooms at home at no cost. Propagation is also a method. Whether we're dividing bulbs like garlic and gladiolus, whether we're propagating cuttings like geranium and other things, certainly elderberry, that wild native that we grow on site, different methods will allow us to sustain a lot of diversity throughout our landscapes. Let's get into a few of those methods. We'll see what seed is available, and we'll show you a bit of what's coming out this time of year. Let's get into it. Here we have the Sherburne Garden, dating all the way back to 1695. This is our earliest garden here at Strawbery Banke, and we sustain a lot of biodiversity, colonial herbs, and certainly culinary crops, dating all the way back to the 1600s and earlier. There was a balance of medicinal crops and certainly crops associated with foodways, pickling and preserving. So throughout this landscape, we collect quite a lot of seed this time of year, all the way up into the fall. Now, this seed collection allows us to sustain biodiversity here in our colonial kitchen garden, allowing us to really preserve those unique heirlooms connected to heritage and culture early on, and certainly quite a lot of traditions connecting people and plants throughout history. Now, these large plants in front of me is tennis ball lettuce. Now, this time of year, we're looking for our first planting of lettuce to bolt like this. They tend to elongate, past those nice succulent greens that we often eat, and they start creating these little tiny flowers. As you see, they are setting now. Soon enough, we'll see little tiny flowers here and there. In a few weeks, we'll be collecting that seed. Here we have Leek in the Allium family. Nice little honeybee on there. All onions are biennials, so the second year they produce these awesome arrays of flower clusters, producing quite a lot of seed. Believe it or not, in each of those single flowers is a few seeds. Here we are in Goodwin Garden, appropriately designed to around 1870. Now, most of the flowers throughout this landscape are non-edibles, those ornamental designs. This time of year, many of our flowers, particular to the 19th century, those really unique heirlooms, are producing seed this time of year. We'll be collecting from the zinnias, the snapdragons, California poppy. California poppy, one of our native flowers, absolutely gorgeous. It drops quite a lot of seed every single season, so sometimes comes back on its own. Parallel to these blooms, all of these seed pods, you can notice some are green, but it's the darker ones that we're after, like this one here. Now inside, let's just split this open. See those black seeds? That is the California poppy seed. You really want them dark, like this. Here we have Moonflower, or Datura. Now, this is a very, very cool plant called Moonflower because it's often open at night. Here's the seed pod of Datura. Now, really cool spiky look. They're not quite ready. They will get a little bit larger than this. Now, Datura has a long history of being used as a poison. There's lots of history associated with people utilizing it against their enemies. Here we have the Victory Garden, which we interpret around 1943-44, right before the Second World War ended in 45. Quite a lot of reflections to those heirlooms that would have been available during wartime efforts throughout Victory Gardens. From onions to our solanaceous crops, as you see below, tomatoes and potatoes growing well this time of year. Quite a lot of lettuce varieties yielding lots of seed, allowing us to collect more and more to sustain those unique varieties appropriate to the early 40s. Including our arugula crop that has gone to seed at this point in early summer. Let's go take a closer look at the arugula seed coming out. Here we have arugula in the Victory Garden. Great microgreen or full green early season, but it does go to seed very quickly. Drops seed and sometimes comes back actually, but we do collect it every now and then. Let's get a little bit closer and you can actually see the seed pods below some of those new flowers. Now, propagating cuttings is a very common example on how we reproduce certain heirlooms that are already in that vegetative stage. In the cup of water, I have a cutting of geranium, rosemary, elderberry, and artemisia, more specifically wormwood here. In the small cup, I have rooting hormone, and now in the cell container, I have different methods of media that we use for propagation. So I have 2 cells just with soil. I have 1 cell mixed with soil and perlite, and then 1 cell with just perlite. Different media for different propagation methods. I love using perlite. No organic matter. It keeps things really, really clean. But you certainly have to keep the water in here. It dries out very quickly compared to lots of organic matter, maybe the risk of rotting out your cuttings, but this type of media certainly has a lot more water retention to it. So I usually start with a little bit of water and then I utilize the powder. You can actually see in here, rooting hormone is just a white powder. You can find rooting hormone online or certainly in garden centers, very inexpensive, and that is basically mimicking natural hormones that the plant produces. A little bit of water goes a long way and you literally just dip, okay? We've got a nice little layer here. Give it a little tap and straight into the media, okay? As we continue around with the other cuttings, we do the same thing. But you want to always have a meristem. That's the section that produces leaves and shoots. So often these internodal spaces in here are the meristem. So now we have a little propagation tray. Some things require a little bit more time than others. But again, propagation like this, reproducing our heirlooms very sustainably, inexpensively, in parallel to reproducing our plants with seed systems, reproducing bulbs, or those perennial divisions that allow us to reproduce our heirlooms here at Strawbery Banke. Give it a try. Propagation is a lot of fun. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the program today. I'm Erik Wochholz, and this is Strawbery Banke.